So here's the deal. There are receivers available. Let's go through them now. Deebo Samuel is looking to be traded from the 49ers. Now I've heard this from two places, this exercise, that you get Deebo, and then A.J. Brown's his best friend. You bring him in, too. Then you got them both. Two people I've heard say it, and I saw it written. Yeah. And these are people that are being paid for their opinions, not just guys on the internet. So I just wanted to make that statement that's been said. But all right, what do you think of a Deebo Samuel coming to the Patriots?
Without knowing the price, I'm out. I think he's got a lot of tread on the tires. Expensive player. Right now, if I'm the Patriots, I'm trying to squeeze as much juice out of every single asset that I can, draft picks in salary cap space. And look, they have a ton of salary cap space. This is not about saving money, certainly not for the Crafts. It's just to say I need to maximize those resources. If I'm giving up a pick and a lot of cap space for this player, he better be entering his prime. Deebo Samuel certainly is not.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you talked about you needed professionals in the locker room. Cooper Kupp is certainly a professional. He is loved by his teammates. He's a cerebral player. I'm not just saying that because he's white. I mean, he's a cerebral player. I'm not just.
But he brings his lunch
code. I'm not painting with a broad brush here. But he's said like he's a quarterback on the field.
He was compared. I forget who it was. It might have been Mike Giardi who compared him to, say, Adam Thielen.
Right.
You bring in a guy like him. Thielen teaches the younger receivers how to be good. He's a kind of a figurehead in the locker room.
The trade is like a trade in quotations, like you pick swap of seventh rounders or something. But
is that why he compared Cooper Kupp to Adam Thielen? The only reason?
Yeah, he brought up the Adam Thielen thing. I didn't.
Just that they're old and wise. That's all.
No, he also reminds me of a young Wayne Krebet. So, if you must know, a little Wes Welker thrown in.
Yeah.
But okay, so he's not very good anymore, and he's hurt a lot. You can get him he gets paid some money, but he won't get paid that money, obviously, when he goes to another team. Do you bring, is Cooper Kupp the kind of guy you bring in just to be in the room?
I like the theory of Cooper Kupp more than the reality.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about money. He's 32. He's coming off of a 700-yard season where he was mostly healthy, catching passes from Matthew Stafford and getting coached by Sean McVay. I look at this Cooper Kupp market and say they know something that nobody else does. Because they've got a lot of urgency to get out of the Cooper Kupp business. Why is that? I do think he would benefit Drake May being here for a year or two. But I think by then, after 2 seasons, that's when the Patriots are looking to contend. At 34, Cooper Kupp's no longer really of service. Might be out of the league. I don't know, especially given his injury history. So I'm leaning out. If this is a super late, maybe conditional pick, and the Rams want to take some of the salary and eat it in the process, sure. He also wants to go to a contender. So even if you get that deal and they want to honor his wishes as I don't know if you call him a franchise legend, but he's up there.
No,
they might not stop. It might stop there.
Yeah, they're trying to do right by him, even though he's pissed off. They want to get rid of him. I can't blame him. Yeah, it's more of a theoretical thing. Like, there's no way they're going to trade for Cooper Kupp. It's more of just, you talk about getting professionals into the locker room.
Yeah.
You talk about getting a guy who is going to be good. He's not going to be a malcontent. Could be a guy that, because your receiver room sucks so bad.
Yeah, and like the leadership in the receiver room would be a huge plus.
Right.
I don't think
but he can't. But the question is if he can play. All right. I've asked you this before. If your opinion is evolving on it. Tee Higgins is going to go for an awful lot of money. Tee Higgins has never been a number one receiver. Tee Higgins gets hurt. You have a ton of cap space, though. Let's put it this way. You want Tee Higgins on the team. He's better than anything you have by a lot.
Yeah.
If you give him a long, expensive contract, do you have enough salary cap room where it's not going to negatively affect you, even if he's not a true number one?
Yes.
Okay, so you might as well just take a flyer on him?
I mean, a flyer is like $2 million. I think the question
No.
A
flyer meaning that it won't. If there's a flyer meaning that there's no dire consequences. Like, I don't care what they give him.
Contract.
Yeah, an effort contract.
Okay.
Let's say that.
Yeah. So I'm in the neighborhood of $30 million, which I think is what he'll ultimately get. And I haven't gone to the combine yet. Obviously, that's where you pick up a lot of these contract figures and rumors and whispers and rumblings, etc. That to me, it would be around my limit, though. for this guy. And it's not because he hasn't been a number one. Anyone standing opposite Jamar Chase, just by default, is not going to be a number one. That's not his fault. And when you isolate his play from his surroundings, his separation, his Pro Football Focus grades, how often he wins contested catches, he performs like a number one. The issue for me is the hamstring injuries. And they're just very finicky. You don't know when they're going to pop up. And if he gets sidelined for upwards of 6 games, that's more than a third of the season. That's huge. So the history of that, and obviously not being surrounded, forget Jamar Chase, decent offensive line, great quarterback, good offensive coaches. How does he thrive within that environment? I'm not sure. But it's a great guy. But he's not the only one in free agency. It's not Tee Higgins or bust. Okay,
I have a question because I've been hearing a lot about this, and I have to admit that I'm ignorant towards it. You know, people go, the Eagles spent the most cash money in the league. Like, they spent around the most cash money in the league. Now, I understand that you can spend a lot of money on coordinators, and you can fill out your front office, and you can get an analytics department, and you can invest a lot of money in a brain trust. What's the difference? Does anyone else not understand this? What's the difference between paying, like, up to a salary cap and then paying cash? Like, real money spent versus salary cap money spent. What's the difference?
So the cap is just, it's not fake, but it's very fungible in that you can move cap around while spending a ton of cash right now. Think of a signing bonus. This is the simplest example. I give you a $20 million signing bonus on a 4-year contract. You get that right away or in 2 installments, whatever it is. On my cap, that instead over this 4-year contract, though, for Fred will be $5 million this year and 5 each of the next 3 seasons. So what that does is obviously it lowers your cap hit now, but it pushes it into the future. And so what you're doing with the cap is really just kind of shuffling money around in a table. And there's a limit of how much each corner of the table can take. So the Patriots can say, yeah, we spent to the cap and that's a good idea. But if you ever want to create more cap, you can by using a similar function like that with a signing bonus in which you convert base salary that is owed this season and say, okay, we'll turn this into a signing bonus. And what that does, again, is allows us to spread it over the next few years. Say you're owed $10 million this year. That puts us over the cap. There's too much money over here. Let's convert it. We'll call it a signing bonus, and now we'll spread it over the next 3 seasons. But the bill always comes due. It's just a matter of how you're
kicking the can down the road.
Right.
And some of this is done with an eye on what the cap increase is going to be in those years down the road, too.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so have the Patriots been cheap with that? Like, are the Crafts, in your opinion?
As opposed to the Eagles, because Jay Stu was going off about this yesterday. It's like, like real money spent, and that's one of the reasons why they continue to build these good teams, is they spend more real money than other teams.
Well, they're also better evaluators than the rest of the league. Like, the Raiders right now are spending more money on coaches than anyone else in the NFL. 4 head coaches. That doesn't make them any smarter on Sundays standing on the sideline, because they just spent that money. You need to hire the right guy in the same way you need to pick and sign and trade for the right player. So it is a little bit of both. The more money you spend, theoretically, that should up your chances, right? Same as if you guys spend a ton of money at the station. The more expensive hosts should be the better ones.
Well, that's Beasley's strategy.
Right, yeah. So, but you have to get both. The Raiders are no smarter. They're still picking in the top 10 of the draft because their coaches stink, their players stink, even if they're spending a ton of money. You need to have smart people in good positions in that leadership to nail the picks. Howie Roseman is one of the best GMs in football.
Yeah.
That's why they have the best roster in football.
Okay. Are the Crafts not – I know they have a ton of cap space right now. It's just because they suck. Have they been reluctant to spend cash money, in your opinion, like real money, in the past?
So – in the last 10 years of Bill Belichick's tenure, the Patriots ranked dead last in cash spending across the entire league. This is not moving around cap and changing numbers and funny money. This is cold, hard cash going out the window.
On players?
On the roster.
Okay.
Yes. That's according to ESPN, dead
sure.
last.
Okay.
So you can say basically whatever you want at that point, in my opinion. Dead last is dead last.
Do you think the Crafts wanted that, or do you think that was a Belichick thing?
They've repeatedly denied that, saying we gave Bill free reign. We know Bill did have free reign when it came to the roster, and they meddled in some of the coaching staff and the hirings and had some more input there. In all my conversations, including with people in the front office, I go, were you ever given a spending limit? No. I've never had any evidence that that's the case. But if you want to call the owners of the team that literally spent the least amount of cash on its roster from 2014 to 2023 cheap, I'm not going to get in your way.
What about the argument, because I've seen teams in the past go nuts in free agency like the Patriots did, and then you get a 1 year bump and then you're back down to square one. Should fans be upset if the Patriots aren't like at the cap in spending going into next year?
Yes, but what will happen is, because this is the way they operate as well as some other teams, is they'll go into the regular season with like $10 million left in space. And part of this is if you need to make any sort of midseason additions, you've got the cap to do so, but you can always create cap. In addition to the per-game roster bonuses, which is the way they've done business forever. Maybe it changes with Ryan Cowden and Elliott Wolf, but Belichick would build in, okay, every game you play, you get a little bit more here if you're available. And that was the way of kind of dangling a carrot through the course of the season. If they continue to do that, they'll want to have money there to spend and hand over per game to award those players with the roster bonuses. So, no, I would not say freak out. But if they're not among the top spenders in free agency, absolutely. Like, they operated last offseason when everyone's going, where's all the money going? They still ranked in the top half of the league, by the way, with how many contracts they signed to players internally and that were pretty expensive. Doesn't look good now. But the goal of last offseason was to roll over cap space. Here we are, $120 million. More than $30 million than the number 2 team. Let's go.
All right.
Let's go.
All right. And you, but are these short-term deals? Are these long-term deals?
It depends on the player. Like Tee Higgins, you're
right.
That guy says, I'm not talking to you unless you give me a 4-year contract down my prime.
But in the end, it all depends on the cap hit. You could sign a guy to a 5-year contract and get out from under it after 2 or 3.
No, but what I'm saying is that if I invest in a bunch of guys that other teams let go, that doesn't seem to me like a recipe for success.
Sure.
I'm going to give you one more name because we haven't said him yet, and he's the number 2 receiver available. Chris Godwin is a guy that I would love for the Patriots to target.
Another guy who's injury prone. Yes.
Well, he has a dislocated ankle, no small thing. This season limited him to 7 games. The seasons before that, 17 games, 15 games, 14 games, 12, 14, 16, 16. One of those years, he came off an ACL tear. This was like a Welker-esque comeback to make it and play next season. When you look at some of the comments that this guy, who's only 28, been a captain down at Tampa, won a Super Bowl, that Tom Brady made, Chris Godwin sounded like one of the best teammates he's ever had. That's an adult who comes into the room. You might call him a 1B, call him a 2A, whatever. He's your best receiver here. You're getting him at 28, plays inside now. Also like Tee Higgins, regarded as one of the best receivers in isolation. I get he's playing with Mike Evans, but he's top 20 by PFF year after year after year. That's a guy who's going to cost less. Talk about buying low, coming off an injury. You spend a little bit less than you normally would. That's a guy I would love for the Patriots to target.
Would you take a dislocated ankle over a recurring hamstring injury?
Yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
Anytime you're talking about ongoing hamstring, recurring hamstring, high ankle, I'll take a dislocated ankle over somebody who deals with high ankle sprains.
I thought you were going to ask if I would like to suffer that personal injury if I.
No.
I have an ankle brace on now.
Yeah. We'll dislocate your ankle if he signs you in, Callahan. No.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.